Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week, we're chatting with Christopher Hudson of Benny Blanco Tortillas about the lifestyles of the farmers market food maker. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I'm a longtime Farmers Market Manager, Vendor 101 co-teacher, and education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active Farmers Market Manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, and the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, marketing director for Farmers Market Pros, and logistics coordinator for the Farmers Market Pros new membership program.
So exciting.
Woot woot.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Blue Owl Promos. If you registered for last month's Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, you've probably seen some of this wonderful swag that we worked with Blue Owl to produce. Those cool Tent Talk tin cups, the cute notebooks, and as farmers market managers, we've also relied on them for insulated shopping bags and t-shirts to sell at our farmers market info booth. Fun fact, we met Marcy years ago when she was a farmers market vendor. Remember when Marcy used to sell cheese?
Yes, it was the best.
The best.
She was a great vendor. Always showed up on time.
Always showed up on time. She was wonderful. We miss her at the markets, but Marcy and her team respond quickly to inquiries and find us the best pricing and pay attention to our orders for merchandise from start to finish. If you're ready to add popular logoed merchandise to your info booth, people love it. It's a nice additional income stream. Contact Blue Owl at blueowlpromos.com/tent talk and tell them the Farmers Market Pros sent you.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. Today we are talking with Christopher Hudson of Benny Blanco Tortillas. Christopher hand makes his tortillas and sells at the Gilbert Farmers Market in the Phoenix, Arizona area. He started his business from scratch and has grown steadily, and we're going to talk about the highs and lows of growing a small food business at farmers markets. Welcome, Christopher.
Well, hello there, and glad to be here.
Hello.
Glad to have you.
I got to tell you, it's really
you.
cool to be on this side of things because I've listened to you ladies for so long. I think I found you about a year ago, and I binged all your episodes for a certain amount of time, and then once they were done, I started going back to the old episodes, and I feel like I know Maya and the hot sauce folks, which I think you're one of the hot sauce folks, right?
Yeah, I was.
Steve.
Yeah, I sold my business, but that was
So
me.
I feel like I've gotten to know all these vendors through your podcast. So it's really cool to be on the other side.
Yeah, we love that part of this podcast. I feel like when we go see people and they're like, hey, I know you. Like, you started cooking this year. Like, it's just like we have this like relationship. It's so fun. I'm like, oh, people actually listen to this podcast. It's nice.
It's
Yeah.
very funny. I get people, I'll be talking to somebody at a conference or some kind of meeting. Well, not lately as much, but in the past. And they'd be tapping me on the back and saying, I know your voice. You're Tent Talk.
We've been doing this long enough that I'm starting to get recognized out and about too.
Yeah.
And I was at a little bar with a friend that was visiting from Colorado a couple weeks ago, and somebody walked up to me and goes, hey, you're the tortilla guy. And so it's good and bad. It keeps me on my best behavior, I suppose.
Exactly. That's exactly
Gotta
right.
be careful.
Yes.
If you want to misbehave, you got to costume up.
Yep.
Yeah, have to wear a disguise.
And Christopher and I realized we have a connection because my cousin Brittany is a local maker in Arizona, and they've been at the same events and farmers markets and such before. So she was like, hey, I met a guy who listens to your podcast. And I'm like, yeah, we're all related. So, you know, it's a small farmers market community.
One
True.
big farmers market family.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Christopher. We wanted just to start by hearing a little bit about your background. I read on your bio on your website that you've been in the food industry for a while. So if you could just give us like a little sketch of what led you to the tortilla and farmers market business.
Well, sure. So since you guys are the only ones that actually get to see my face, I am a Caucasian-looking individual, but my family, a couple generations back, is from Mexico. So even though I don't look like it, I'm half Mexican. And I grew up in Tucson. That's where I was born. My Nana, Maria, used to make fresh tortillas all the time, and she was always cooking. That was her job. She was a stay-at-home caretaker, and she always had a pot of something cooking. There were only two boys. My brother came along a lot later. So it was me and my cousin Carlos, and everybody else was girls. Tons of female cousins. And so she took a liking to us because we were the two boys, right? So she always cooked for us. So she used to tell us, if you really want to eat like this, you need to learn how to cook, because a lot of parents aren't teaching their daughters how to cook these days. And so we took it literally, and we both learned how to cook pretty darn well. So that was my first introduction to food, when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, learning how to cook with my nana. Moved to Ohio because my dad had work when I was 11. My mom was a fantastic cook. We used to cook out there, and I wanted to move out west when I got into college, but I didn't want to get back to the heat of Arizona. So I moved to Colorado, and that's when I got into the food industry. Everything from bussing tables to waiting tables. I was a manager for a couple of years. I've literally done everything in the restaurant world, front of house, back of house. Was never a chef, but line cook for many, many years. And when I got out of that world, started working at Home Depot, met my wife. I was actually her boss. So that's always the fun story.
But she's the boss now, right?
She's definitely the boss now. When we got married, she ended up going back to school to get her speech pathology degree. So she's a speech language pathologist, and she got offered a job in Mesa. So that brought us back to Arizona. So the first thing I did when I got here was start looking for work, and I got a job doing maintenance on commercial dishwashers in restaurants all around Phoenix and Scottsdale. So I got to meet so many chefs. So I was a pretty good cook to start off with. These chefs figured out I knew what I was doing. They liked me. I was nice to them. I did a good job, and they started teaching me all kinds of stuff. So I got to learn everything from some Korean barbecue to some high-end Mexican to some French and Italian. I got to learn some really, really cool stuff. And so that they'd been in the food industry, but not super passionate. All these chefs got me really, really jazzed to be back in the restaurant world. And I didn't have to work till 2 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't have to deal with crappy customers, and I didn't have to rely on tips. So it was actually a real nice way to revive the passion without having to deal with some of the dirtier aspects of the industry, I suppose. But take a little step back. My wife and I, when we moved to Gilbert, we didn't know anybody here. And so we were looking for stuff to do in our free time. We found the Gilbert Farmers Market. So one of the things, Justine, that you mentioned, or not Justine, Bridget, I'm sorry, was I started the business from scratch. I actually didn't. I bought an existing business.
Oh.
My wife and I went to the farmer's market, and we found this guy named Ben, which is where the name came from, Ben Ramirez.
Oh, you're answering all of our questions. We're just going to let you talk.
So he was making these tortillas, and he was sitting in a chair, and he had a cooler with a few dozen packs of tortillas, and he had a table with a little Mexican blanket and a little tiny sign, and it said fresh homemade tortillas. And so I bought a pack, and they tasted just like my Nana's. And from that point, for the next 5 years, I never bought another pack of tortillas other than his. So we were such fans of the company that we started ordering, 10, 12, 15 packs. So when we traveled, we would take them and give them as gifts. So 5 years later, we became a customer about the same time he started the business. 5 years later, he was getting burnt out. He had 2 boys in high school. High school sports were always on Saturday. He couldn't make it to the market anymore. He was getting burnt out on wholesale, and he put the business up for sale. And my wife saw it, and she said, "Hey, you either need to buy a year's worth of tortillas or you need to buy the company."
Only two options.
Those are the only 2 options. Yeah. Actually, I had his number because I ordered so much, and I called him. We met for coffee that afternoon. And he gave me the numbers, told me what revenue was and what sales were. And he was growing about 10% year over year. I said, I can make something with this. And we had to move some money around and cash out some investments in all my 401ks from my 27 different jobs, $500 here and $200 there, pulled it all together. And I was able to buy the company cash.
Wow. What a cool story.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
3 years ago. I'm really encouraged, actually, to hear that. I didn't realize that part of your story. And we're always talking to farmers market vendors about documenting their income and making sure that they've got their procedures established and that they've done their P&L so that they can sell a business when they're ready to go. So I'm happy for you, and I'm also happy for him that he kept track in the best way so that he could actually sell the business and recoup his investment and hopefully make a little profit.
Well, it's kind of funny. When he told me what he was asking, he was missing a zero. And
Oh,
I didn't even negotiate. I told my wife he really just wanted, his goal was to find somebody who was going to carry it on and do good things with it. He was more interested in that than trying to make a ton of money off of it. So we literally expected the price to have another zero on it. And so and it had it, we would have had to get a business loan and go through other avenues. But as it sat, he just wanted to see somebody succeed with it. We have a relative who is a business advisor, and she said, you have to negotiate. You have to offer less. And I said, no, I want this guy in my corner. So if I need help in 2 months, 3 months, if I can't figure something out, I can call him. I don't want to go down on the price so much that he's angry with me. Because I gave him full asking price. He helped me out several times over the first 6 months, and we still keep in touch. And he's pretty excited to see how the company's grown since I took over.
that's exciting.
That's a win-win.
How
Yeah,
nice for
that's a
him.
great story.
Yeah.
That's really cool, Christopher. Actually,
love
my husband and I just sold our hot sauce business last year.
I heard.
And it wasn't a farmer's market customer, but it was one of our wholesaler. We sold wholesale to this cafe, and they were just fans of ours. And it was kind of a similar thing where we had just casually mentioned that we were looking to exit, and they were like, really? Well, we want this to go on. So it was kind of a similar thing, and we might have left a zero off too, but it's cool because we're retained 5% of the company. So
Yeah.
if they hit it rich, then we hit it rich a little bit too. But I think that's a really important thing for farmers market business owners or just small business owners to realize that, like, if you want to sell your company, it might just be one of your good customers that wants to buy it. And I'm curious, where did they post? Did he post somewhere that he was selling it, or how did that conversation
He did
strike
one
up?
post on Facebook. And the funny thing about that is my wife is not a fan of social media. She uses it the bare minimum. She has business pages, speech therapy groups that she's a part of, and that's about all she does on there. For whatever reason, that morning, she was scrolling a little more. I didn't even follow Facebook because he wasn't very active. And so I had never made an attempt. He didn't post recipes. He'd essentially say, hey, I'm not going to be here this weekend. So see you next week. That was the extent of social media. And so I didn't follow him. So I never would have seen it. And my wife never would have seen it if that one morning, for whatever reason, she just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and saw the post. What was funny was when it was all said and done, I asked him, did you have any other offers? And he said, I had a couple other people kicking tires. When all this started, I had 2 people in mind that were going to buy the business. One of them called me and the other one was you.
Oh,
He knew it was going to be me from the beginning, I think.
I love that.
Oh, that's
Serendipity.
great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So fun.
Cool. So, love the backstory. Could you tell us a little bit about, like, just your products? So, like, what type of tortillas you offer, where you make them, your packaging, just kind of a little bit about your production.
Sure. So we're a home-based kitchen. We're operating under cottage industry. People ask why I don't make more than tortillas, but we're kind of limited to what we're allowed to make because it's cottage industry. We'd love to be in an actual facility later this year. That's our goal. My wife would like to have her garage back and her space and her mornings, because I have employees showing up at 7 a.m. But we converted the entire garage into a kitchen. So I've got full butcher blocks, and I've got a 20-quart mixer, and I've got a 6-foot long flat top stove that we cook the tortillas on. I had a local machine shop actually make a prototype conveyor so I can cool the tortillas faster. So the tortillas are able to be on a motion belt. I'm always trying to be more efficient and save space. So that answers the location question, where we make them. Oh, what kind of tortillas? Yeah, that's a really important question. The only thing I don't make is keto tortillas. I make flour tortillas. All my grain is from a local mill, Hayden Flour Mills, which is about 20 miles up the road. Most of our flour is actually grown within 100 miles. Our white Sonoran wheat and our red Fife wheat, and we're actually adding Rouge Bordeaux. They're all heritage grain, heirloom, non-GMO, non-hybridized wheat that's all grown within 100 miles. They're all very drought tolerant, heat tolerant, disease and insect tolerant. So they don't have to use pesticides and herbicides. We are not claiming them to be organic because none of the farms are certified organic because of all the rules around that. But it's about as high quality of a wheat as you can get. And then it's stone milled instead of steel milled. So there's no heat buildup. You get a lot more of the nutrient carryover that you lose with a high processed all-purpose flour that you get from like Costco or Sam's Club. We also do organic corn tortillas. We do have to get our corn in from Iowa because there's no organic corn grown in the state of Arizona. Most corn grown here is pretty low quality for feedlots, cattle and livestock feed. So we do get that from out of state, but we try really hard to source all of our ingredients local. Our most popular tortilla is made with lard that we actually get the pig fat from a local farm. Here's a funny story. So the pig farm, Perry is the owner. It's called AZ Fine Swine. They feed their pigs spent grains from local breweries. All these breweries get their grain from Hayden Flour Mill, which is all grown local. One of the biggest breweries, I actually used to supply my tortillas to them. So it was this whole little microeconomy where this grain was grown, it was brewed, it was fed to the pigs, and then more of it was added into the tortillas. So it was really cool to just watch how many lives were touched by one field of wheat.
Wow.
And,
That's the way the world should be.
Yeah, like circle of life.
It is. Talk about one big farmers market family. And it's cool.
Yeah.
We had Farmer Mai from the California Grain Campaign and Griston Toll's owner at our conference a couple of years ago. And it was incredible to find out, and I don't know why this hadn't occurred to me before that, but wheat is just like tomatoes. The difference in flavor in an heirloom wheat and a wheat that hasn't been over-processed and a wheat that's ground differently, that's stone milled instead of put on those hot grinders. The flavor of that wheat is so different from what we were used to, just like, a fresh tomato or a fresh peach from a farmer is so different than what we're used to.
My wife didn't like tomatoes until we started buying them at the farmer's market.
Exactly.
We hear that
a couple of
from
relatives
customers,
like that just wouldn't touch tomatoes, and then we got them to eat one from a farmer's market. It's like, oh, wait, no, this is a completely different fruit. So I'm so impressed to hear that you're using Hayden Flour Mill's flours and things. Do they sell at farmers markets?
So not directly. There's a lot of vendors like Sonoran Pasta is a pasta company here that uses their flour. They sell the retail boxes, and there's a few other ones. There's another tortilla vendor on the west side, Los Compadres, that she is real similar to me in what she does, and she sells the boxes of their flour as well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, have you thought about selling their flour at your booth? So yeah, apparently you're way ahead of me.
I've had people ask, and it's
just cumbersome.
Sales tax issue. The retail and whatnot. So I've just kind of stayed away from it. It's about all I can do to maintain my table with the tortilla on it. So
cool.
I don't need to add too much more at this point.
I love all the stories about the local ingredients, though.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
So,
And here's something else that's really cool. We have lots of vendors at our farmers market. We have a honey vendor. I wish I have two. And I use their honey for some of my sweet dessert tortillas. What I didn't get into, I suppose, I do a lot of specialties. Every week I do something different. So this week's specialty on the flour side is a mulberry, habanero, and honey wheat tortilla. So I got mulberry, somebody local who has mulberries on a tree. The habaneros are from Sprouts, but the honey is from a local honey farmer. And so they're all vendors at the farmers market. So I get to cross promote and bring attention to them. And of course, they're going to bring attention to me because they're like, hey, guess what? Benny Blanco with the huge line down at the end, he's using our honey for his tortillas. So a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So there's hot sauce vendors, Azika sauces. I use his sriracha sauce. I'm using the lard from the pig vendor. The veggies and the peppers I get from our farmers, and I'm able to really interact with all these other vendors, and everybody just loves being a part of it. I like being able to use their super high quality stuff. They love my social media page with 4,000 people drawing attention to them. Everything works well.
Yeah, because I had a question about that, actually. I'm really impressed, and it's especially hearing that the old owner was not real on top of social media. So
Didn't even have an Instagram page.
So you've had this for, what, 3 years, this business?
It'll be 3 years in August, so almost there.
So you've got 4,000 plus followers, and I think the reason is you do a really good job on social media. Your Instagram posts are really good. They're relational. You obviously have interaction back and forth between you and your customers. And as you say, you're doing some interaction and cross-promoting with other vendors, which is huge. That, definitely helps everybody. So I've been really impressed by your social media presence. And of course, you and I end up messaging back and forth on Instagram a lot. That's how you really came to our attention. But how did you know how to do that, or were you a big social media guy before you started this business? Or
No, actually, the funny thing is I didn't have an Instagram page until I started this. I take that back. I did have a page, but I had like 6 pictures of some stuff that I had cooked, and they were, bad lighting, and it was an old Samsung phone, and it was awful. Most of my social media was arguing with strangers on Facebook because, it's fun to do sometimes.
Somebody's wrong on the internet. I need to fix that.
Exactly. And I've matured past that. I try not to get involved in that too much anymore. Now I like to argue with my friends in person. But no, I really didn't have any clue. I watched some other people and saw what they did and saw what I liked and what I didn't like. And I really didn't like when every post was somebody trying to sell to me, when everything, hey, I've got this item for sale for this $1. I've got this item. I also noticed that there's a million food pages and they all look the same if everything is a top-down, well-lit view with a white background and a pretty plate of food. Who cares? I'm not eating it. I want who's behind the camera. I want to know about you. I want to see a picture of your dog. Actually, I have a little dog, Penelope. She's sleeping in the chair next to me. She's a little rescue. I think a couple weeks in, 10 likes here, 15 likes here. I posted a picture of the dog and I get 75 likes. And I'm like,
Of course.
pay attention to this. And then we're just having a little bit of fun when you remember the bottle top challenge that was going on when all these martial artists were kicking the top off of a water bottle and doing martial arts.
My sons like those videos.
It took some water bottles and some old tortillas, and I was tossing the tortillas like frisbees to knock the top off. And there's a bunch of outtakes, and it was silly. And that right there got me like 500 followers because it was something fun and stupid that nobody else had done. So this has all been trial and error and just being me and being a goofball and having fun. I show pictures of my food. I show pictures of me and my wife when we go on trips. I show pictures of my dog, and I show more pictures of food. When I figured out that customers like to have their pictures reposted because it's a little bit of ego boost, I started leaning real heavy into that. And I would tell my customers, hey, tag me on Instagram. I want to see what you're doing with my tortillas. If they had a nice picture, and even a not so nice picture, I'd ask for permission to share it, and I'd throw it up on there, and it just made people so happy. So 1 or 2 shares, and all of a sudden everybody's posting pictures. And so now I get to capture their followers and their audience, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so smart. People really do love to be part of it, especially I think farmers market shoppers. They feel kind of like they're like they have a sense of ownership with the vendors that they shop at. So there really is that relationship there, and I don't know. It's such a good audience to draw on, and also as a small business owner, you're doing so many different things. You have so many responsibilities. Sometimes taking photos takes a lot of time, and if you have people generating that content for you, it's like an untapped resource.
Exactly.
I have some amazing photographers on my customer list, and I'll put the background and stage it, and they'll do things I didn't even think was possible. And they're doing all the not Photoshop, but what's the Adobe Lightroom? They're going changing everything, dialing it in, and it just looks amazing. And of course, I'm gonna show that to the world because, heck yeah, that's I honestly, since day one, have not spent one dime on advertising.
Wow.
It's amazing. You can do it as long as you're kind of connecting with your customers and kind of reeling in those really talented artistic customers and, generating like a conversation with them. So then they're saying, hey, this guy reposted my picture. And then their friends are like, who's this guy? Oh, his tortillas. It's like this big, circular thing. I think, if vendors just took advantage of that more, I feel like they could have a much, higher follower count, which engages their customers. And then that does ultimately turn into sales. I'm sure
absolutely.
People come because they're engaged with your social media and they're like, I'm going to go check this guy out at the market. And it's that's how you get people to your booth. Yeah.
Every week I have somebody tell me, I've been following you on Instagram for 3 or 4 months. You're hilarious. I had to see what you were about. Or pictures look so good. Or so many customers. I've had other social media managers come up to me saying, all right, how are you doing this? How are you getting? I mean, this is their full-time occupation. They manage the accounts for 3 or 4 big companies. And they're coming to me saying, how are you doing it? I'm like, I don't know. I took a picture of myself throwing dough away when I screwed up a batch because I forgot the salt. I don't know.
It's that authentic thing.
Yeah.
Social media managers are a huge, wonderful resource, but if you have the time to do it yourself, there's nothing like that personal, authentic interrelationship with you and your customers.
Sure. And I enjoy it. That makes a difference.
It's fun for you too. That helps.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. So you're answering all of our questions we didn't even know we had. So your booth at the farmers market, you mentioned that you have like a line there a lot. What do you do to make your booth stand out at the market? Can you kind of describe it to us and tell our listeners?
Sure. So when I first started, I had one 10 by 10 tent, and we were kind of right in the middle of the market with vendors on either side of us. And as we got busier and people came to know my tortillas, our line started getting a little longer, and we were interfering with other vendors' lines. So they asked if they could put me on the end, and I said, no big deal. And for about 6 months, they experimented with different positions where they put me at the front of the market by the entrance. They put me by the food trucks, and they would always apologize. We're so sorry, we have to move you. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I'll just post my map and I'll tell people where I am.
You're like dream vendor, because most of our vendors get furious.
I've never heard a vendor be like, oh, sure, just put me wherever.
That's why the market managers are apologizing, because they think you're going to freak out like everybody else that moves 5 feet. Right. It's like, oh my gosh, people never find me. I'm 5 feet away. And in fact, in retail, the smartest thing you can do in retail display is move things around in your store.
That's why end caps are a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So I didn't mind, because every time it happened, I got new customers who'd be like, oh, you're a new vendor. Where have you been? And my customers who wanted my tortillas, they'd walk the market and they'd find me. And I have a big, bright Mexican serape, the rainbow colored blanket that goes over my table. And then during the summer, I have a giant red umbrella. So that way people who are standing in line are protected from the shade. So I'd say, hey, look for the red umbrella, because I'm the only one there. Look for the Mexican blanket. And, people would recognize that. My logo I have on a 4 foot by 4 foot sign with the giant B with the circle around it. So you can see it from 100 feet away. And then on the other side of my tent, I have a 6 foot banner that says fresh homemade tortillas. So I do everything I can. Anybody walking within 100 feet knows what I'm doing. I have a flat product. I can't really display it super well, so I rely on the signage. This is kind of funny though. So since COVID started, I have not taken a single tortilla home. And I can actually count in 3 years, I've probably had 4 non-sellout days. And every week we make it more and more and more, and we figure out ways to be more efficient. 2 weeks ago, I had a couple, over 1,000 tortillas that didn't get sold. And I was sitting here trying to figure out what the heck. It was Easter weekend. We were a little bit slower than normal, and I couldn't figure out what happened. I showed up 15 minutes late to my spot to get loaded up. I didn't have time to put my fresh homemade tortilla top banner. And then, because the sun was so bright, I angled my umbrella so that way it would shield my tortillas. What I didn't realize, since I'm all the way on the far end, we call it Gilbert Market West, anybody who wasn't a dedicated customer coming for me that was walking the loop couldn't see my logo. They couldn't see my tortilla sign. They couldn't see my menu board. And the umbrella meant they couldn't see me or my table. I was invisible. And it taught me not to get too comfortable, because a lot of the things that I've done naturally, all my signage, because I want people to know it works.
Yeah.
People that are at the market that have one tiny little sign on their table and a couple of their items, and they wonder why they're not busy. Man, signage really does play a big part in it. And now, so as we've gotten busier and I bring more and more, I now have 2 10 by 10 spaces. And as I got so busy, COVID required that we have spacing in between our tents. So they can't fit as many vendors in the same 100-foot stretch. So they had to push me out even further. And they said, tell you what, to make up for it, because we're so sorry about moving you all the way to the end, we'll let you park your truck there. And that way you can park in front of your tent. Nobody else gets to do that. They have to park in a separate parking lot. Well, my truck is a giant yellow 1970 Chevy Longhorn. It's a big yellow pickup, giant bed. Her name's Rhonda. Just a cool old classic truck. So now, not only do I have all my signage and me and the red umbrella, but I've got a 22-foot long yellow banner that's got my emblem on the side. So I'm pretty visible now.
Good job.
No one's going to miss you at the market again. They are going to find you.
And I didn't even ask for the parking spot, so I'll take it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, we've had that before where we don't typically let vendors park, but we had remember that pie vendor? What was her name? Hannah? Yeah. And she had like a cool yellow truck and it had her little thing on it and it was so cute. We're like, okay, you can park it right there.
Just because it was so cute. It was a vintage truck. It was adorable.
It was cute.
So here's the lesson for everybody. If you're nice to your market manager and you don't complain about getting moved, eventually you'll get your own parking spot.
Yeah, there's some perks that come along with being easygoing.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
You know, you and I have messaged a lot on Instagram over the last couple of years about, because you always, and I'm so aggravated when a vendor is excited to be selling out week after week. It's like, I want the folks that take their kids to soccer and show up in the last hour of the market to be able to buy the same things as the folks that show up at 8 a.m. So
sure, I want to sell out 11:59 in a perfect world.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you and I have talked about my advice to vendors always when they're selling out with an hour or more left in the market is you need to raise your price. Even if you don't have the capacity to increase production, raise your price. If you're selling out, you've obviously got something valuable and you can make it last longer and you can increase your margin. But I think you and I have tussled a little bit back and forth on this because you didn't really want to raise your price too much because you're a nice guy, I guess.
Well, so it's part of that. And also, I guess I didn't get too much into detail with you. I've done it about times. So when I started, my number one selling tortilla is my medium traditional. So it's an 8-inch flour tortilla made with lard. When Ben had the company, he sold it for $4. I increased prices on everything. I sold it for $5. So my first sale was at $5. Now I sell it for $8. So that's a 60% price increase. I have done 60% or more price increase across the board in 2.5 years on everything.
Good.
So I've done little incremental price increases, and I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at the moment. And I know another one will be coming soon. I know it's necessary. It's funny that you say that because I have the same conversation with other vendors. There's actually a jerky vendor that I have become friends with over the past year, and she was way too cheap. And she'd give a big discount if you bought 3 packs. So it's $10 a bag. So 3 bags would be $30. But if you bought 3 bags, she did it for $22. And I said,
that's a big discount.
Yeah.
$8 off for 3. That's insanity. You shouldn't be giving that good discount to your wholesaler. So she reduced her discount, didn't have a single customer complain, and she was thrilled. And then her wholesale places, I told her she needed to increase their cost on it. And she did, and nobody complained. When you have something quality, people will pay for it. I guess the way I look at it, I don't really enjoy being 2 to 3 times the price of a grocery store equivalent item, even though it's not equivalent. I mean, you can buy 10 tortillas at Sprouts the same size for about $2 and change, and I'm charging $8. Mine are better, they're fresher, they're better ingredients, and I recognize that. I'm pretty happy at the $8 mark, and we'll approach that sometime soon because it'll happen. But we have taken a pretty significant hike on everything.
That's good. And I know that I had a feeling when you and I first started talking about this that you didn't want to be gouging and you wanted people to be able to afford them and things. And so I think, isn't one of your answers to that your specialty porcupine tortilla? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Okay. So when I was a little kid, grew up in Tucson, and me and my buddy Eric across the street, we used to play in the desert all the time, and we used to build forts, and we would have secret code words for stuff. We would play war. We would throw little cactus fruits at each other, like pretend grenades, because they pop like a grenade. So when we had any mission, the secret code word was always porcupine. Don't know why. It's just what it was. We had never seen a porcupine in life. We just always had porcupine as the code word. So that's always stuck with me. It's always been a joke, tell my wife, hey, if I have something in my teeth, will you mention there's a porcupine nearby just so I know what's going on?
Radish.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I attempted to do a little Wednesday night local market. There was like 10 or 12 vendors, and it was not a very populated market. And every single week I had stuff left over, and a fair amount. And I didn't want that to go to waste. I was donating some to our local food kitchen in Apache Junction, but I still had stuff left over. So I started posting. This was before COVID by a year. I said, hey, if you want some fresh food, if you're having a hard time putting food on your table and anything healthy, just stop by, mention something about a porcupine. Say, I saw a porcupine on the way here, and I know what you're talking about, and we'll give you a pack of tortillas on the house. And I had people come and they'd take me up on it. I didn't want it to be awkward. I didn't want anybody to have to say, hey, can I get those discounted or those free tortillas? Because it's embarrassing. You know, we had some tough times growing up. I watched a car get repossessed because my parents decided to buy food instead of make the car payment. There were 5 kids. What are you going to do? I understand what it's like to struggle. I lived in my truck for a week because I didn't have a place to live. I've been on the rough side of things, and I didn't want anybody to be embarrassed to need help putting food on the table. So as that kind of caught on a little bit, I started publicizing it a little more because I wasn't trying to draw attention to me, but I wanted people who needed the help to get it. And so we actually started reaching out to a couple other vendors. A couple other vendors reached out to me. I had a honey vendor, I had a chocolate bar vendor, and they said, hey, we're going to give you some stock. If somebody uses the code word, will you give them some of this too? And so I had a bunch of little 2-ounce jars of local honey and chocolate bars. So people had a little dessert, and it was really cool to watch other people get involved in it. And we went from selling leftovers to actually making a dedicated batch or 2 every single week. And at the Gilbert Farmers Market, since it's a lot busier, we had, especially when COVID hit, a lot more people taking us up on it. So many people were out of work, and everybody that lost their job was in the food industry, or they were already on the margins anyways, near the poverty line. So it really hit them the hardest, and we were able to help out quite a few people. And we were able to increase what we were selling giving to the food kitchen. And that's the porcupine project. So now anybody just says something about a porcupine, or can I have a pack of the porcupine tortillas, or can I do whatever? And if you go onto the website, you can actually get a pack on my website when I do the pre-order. I have to charge something, so I just set it as a quarter. I figure somebody can put a quarter on the card. And it's, I used to use a cheap flour and a cheap lard just to kind of get some ingredients out there. And then some customers were giving me $10, $15, $20. I had a customer give me $100 bill. This is for the porcupine project. So I said, all right, if other people are going to help, we're going to use the Hayden flour mill flour, and I'm going to switch it to our nice local pressed olive oil. So that way, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can get in on this too. So now at this point, I'm like, you know what? Pick whatever you want on the table. I don't mind. Take a pack. If you're gluten-free, and I have gluten-free or corn, I don't care. If you can't afford it, give me a high five. Well, not anymore. I make food. People are hungry. Kind of seems like a good fit. And I don't want the price of my tortillas to be a barrier. And the people who can pay. And if you can't, we'll still get you something good.
I love that.
That's so
I
cool.
love it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a year. Yeah.
So really quick, we can't keep you all day, even though you're like preaching to the choir over here. We're like loving everything you're saying. If you want a job, come work for Farmers Market.
An hour goes by fast.
But you mentioned your pre-order, and that was one of our questions that we didn't get to. Could you just give us a little background on that, how that works? Have you always done that, or is that kind of like a COVID era invention? What's up with the pre-order?
So, when I met Brittany was at the Made with Love conference. It was kind of like your guys' intense farmers market, vendor 101 rather. It was a similar concept done by a couple of local ladies, and they had some presenters, and one of them was presenting on a website. I didn't have a website at this point. This was a little over 2 years ago. So I took all the notes, and they said, all right, if you're going to do commerce, these are your best 3. And it was Squarespace, Shopify, and maybe WordPress. I don't remember. And they said Squarespace and Shopify are the 2 best. Well, I wanted to do online sales at some point. So I got the Squarespace website, but I never did anything with the commerce. I had plans on it, but we were just so busy, different priorities. And then COVID hit, and I went, oh boy, this is going to be really interesting. I need to give people an opportunity to buy stuff contactless. So the week that President Trump announced that it was a state of emergency, which was end of March, right? Middle of March last year, I was out of town. I was actually on a plane in Missouri for a business conference. I spent that week, since I didn't have the market that weekend, putting everything online. The very first weekend after that, we had 40 orders. The next weekend, we had 70 orders. The next weekend, we had 100 orders. And it was like, holy moly, half of my sales were coming through pre-order because people didn't know what to expect and they wanted to be safe. And we were even going so far, if you text me when you arrive and you pull up in your car, I'll run it out to your car, drop it in your trunk, and you don't have to talk to anybody. So we made it as easy as possible. We've kept it going, and it's about a third of our sales now are through pre-order. People don't want to wait in line. We have a big line. We're making almost 8,000 tortillas a week right now, just for the farmers market. Our very first Saturday, we sold 600. So what is that? 12, 13 times what we were doing 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So as our sales have increased, we figured out ways to get more and more customers and make it easier. And people love the pre-order. And I've been able to make it fun by doing specialty flavors every week. And we actually do a flavor drop on Wednesday night where I tell what my specialties are. And then Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, pre-order opens, and it's like getting concert tickets. My phone will start blowing up. It's exciting and it's fun, and they get to get the special flavors. And it's not just a transaction. We try and make it fun and exciting and something new and different every week. And it's worked out well. So I highly recommend everybody do pre-order.
Pre-orders. And then they're still picking them up at the farmers market though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do they get past the line and just do a quick pre-order?
I have a separate table that has a big pre-order sign. I have a separate person working for me that their whole job is to keep my table stocked and to pull pre-orders. So all they got to do is walk up, say, hey, my name is Catsfield White. And they go grab the bag and double check your name and hand it to you, and away they go.
That's great.
So there's no line for pre-order. They get to skip all that. And again, I'm still doing curbside. So if we have a few immunocompromised customers where they pull up on the drive nearest to where our booth is, and we'll just run them out to them.
That's great. Does the Gilbert Market charge a flat fee, or are they charging percentage on sales?
They're a flat fee.
They're a flat fee. Okay, so there's no conflict there. I know it's been kind of a question that's come up a couple of times about people that do pre-orders or CSA farmers, for instance, and then have it picked up at the market. Those markets that charge a percentage of your sales are always concerned that, maybe you're not reporting those sales because you didn't technically make the sales at the market, but the pickups at the market. So we're flat fee markets, the markets that we actually manage. So it's never been an issue for us, but I've heard that from other managers. So that's a detail that always has to be discussed, and just make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what the best way to handle that would be. I don't know. I've never had to deal with a percentage-based market. I've only done that Wednesday market, which was a tiny little thing. So it was like $25 a week. And then the Gilbert market, I just pay for my 2 spots.
Right.
Nice.
And you only do 1 market a week, right?
All I can do.
Is that because that's all you can produce?
Well, so on Monday, I have completely off. I now have a day off a week.
Congratulations.
Very exciting.
We tried to do that.
So Tuesday, I cook for wholesale. Wednesday is delivery day. And at the same time, I have a couple of my employees that they start production, making dough and pressing a few of the higher demand tortillas. Thursday and Friday is just cranking out for the market. I actually have 5 people in the kitchen right now that are all cooking. And then Saturday is farmers market, and then Sunday is cleanup and maintenance and fixing everything that broke over the weekday. So 1 day wholesale, and it takes all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, all day Friday, and those are easy 12-hour days for me. Plus, another 20 to 30 man hours from my helpers. We are limited on capacity. Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. And that's always the question. So I think there's a whole world of theory that everybody should want to scale. That should be everybody's goal. And my theory is that everybody needs to find their right size business. Not everybody wants an enormous manufacturing operation and 1 million employees. Some folks are making a decent living by doing 1 market and doing some wholesale. So what's your goal? Are you looking to be the Costco of tortillas, or of artisan tortillas? Or do you want to keep it at a certain scale? Where are you headed?
When you have an $8 pack of tortillas sitting next to a $2.50 pack of tortillas, and you don't have a big bald guy telling you why it's better, it's a real hard sale. So I don't want to be in Fry's or King Soopers or Sprouts or any of these guys, because I don't think that's my target demographic, and I don't think it's going to sell well. And shelf space is at a premium, and the margins are too high for what I want to do. I had big dreams for a while of doing multiple markets. As I talked to other vendor owner operators, the big risk there is if somebody calls off you don't have somebody to go to that market. Well, I don't have a shelf-stable product. I have a couple days. So I can't hold it till next Saturday and sell it at a different market. If I don't sell it that day, I'm donating it. So there's a huge capital risk there that I don't want to deal with. So over the last couple months, my wife and I have been brainstorming. I'm going to move into my own facility, get out of the cottage law, and I'm going to start shipping. So we're direct to consumer, order on the website. Anything that comes in through the week, Monday through Sunday, will get made the following Monday, shipped out that day, 2 day. You'll have it by Wednesday, and we'll get fresh tortillas. Probably start off maybe while we're figuring out shipping, and the Postal Service is trying to figure out how to do their job right now. Maybe just do the western half of the United States so we can get everybody their stuff within 2 days, because I don't use preservatives and I'm not going to change that. I would like to build that side of the business and keep my market, which is fun for me. I get to talk to my customers. I get to say hi, I get to exchange recipes and see how the family's doing. And I don't ever want to lose that, but I'd like to scale some and, be a little more comfortable and turn over a lot of the responsibilities to other employees and just be the chef that creates the fun stuff. So that's my goal.
That's great.
Smart.
Kind of a Maya Madsen model.
Yeah, I was going to say similar. Maya does 2 markets a week and then shipping.
Yeah. I love that model. And then we can get your tortillas here. We'll order our own Benny Blanco tortillas.
I want that
California.
Mulberry habanero honey tortilla. I'm like hungry for that right now.
Let's go.
I can't sell across state lines, but I can give away anything that I want. If you want to send me an address when we're done here, I'll get some sent out your way for sure.
All right. We'll do a little wink, wink. We'll give you a donation. How about that?
Yeah, porcupine.
We'll
give you a
donate to the
porcupine.
Porcupine Fund. Do you have a donation button on your website for the Porcupine Fund?
Nope. I never wanted to solicit donations. It was my thing. If people want to go above and beyond and strive to give something, I'll take it. But I wanted this to be my way to give back. I've never pushed for it. I never had a button.
You don't want to run a big porcupine nonprofit. Kind of a different gig.
Exactly.
This is a more grassroots kind of thing.
I like your focus.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh, what a wealth of information. Yeah. And I love this story, and we're so excited that we got to speak with you. I know I was just in Arizona, but I was only there Tuesday through Friday, so because I had to get back for our market. So the next time I'm in Arizona visiting my many family members, and I'm there on a Saturday, which may happen at the end of May. We have some graduation, so I might have to take a market off here. So if I'm there, I will come by and see you.
Yeah, that market.
Well, like I said, I'm out doing deliveries on Wednesday too, so I'd be happy to meet up somewhere, and they'll still be fresh made from Tuesday's production. So we can, if Saturday doesn't work, we'll make something happen.
He sells at Arcadia Meat Market.
Oh yeah, Arcadia Meat Market.
Yeah, that's kind of our hood. We grew up in Arcadia Light. So.
Yes, my family's all in Arcadia, Biltmore area. So awesome! Right. Oh wow, cool. Yeah, it's great to talk to you, Christopher.
Any one last secret of success that you want to share with our listeners?
I know it sounds cliche, but be yourself. Have personality, and if your personality is, dry engineer, this is the nuts and bolts, lean into that. If you're a goof, lean into that. Just be you, because people respond to that, and people want to know the story of the person behind the product. Show your face, even if you think it's ugly. It doesn't matter. People want to. I'm a overweight, chubby, bald, half Mexican. What web presence do I have? But people like when I get on there, so we'll have fun with it. Just be yourself, and that's my secret.
Authenticity is everything.
I love that
Thanks
authenticity theme. We love it. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, Christopher. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful day.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today, and big thanks to Blue Owl Promos for providing farmers, food makers, and farmers markets with clever promotional products at fair prices, and for supporting Tent Talk, Farmers Market podcast. Find all your merchandise needs at blueowlpromos.com/Tent Talk.
Farmers markets are all about community, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're just getting started in farmers markets, check out our Vendor 101 online course at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcast, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you are listening on YouTube, give us that thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will have another great episode next week, so tune in.